This episode of the Nerf Herder Council is brought to you by Audible. Visit audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download.
Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking Nerf herder!
You can't use that word! Only we can use that word!
You're tuned in to the Nerf Herder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate. Featuring your hosts, JT.
Stormtrooper armor deflects everything except Orback hooves. They're like a horse version of Thomas the Tank Engine.
AJ.
Yeah, Rebels is a lot like our show, where we think we have a good idea and then it just fails in execution. On this episode of the Nerf Herder Council, it's Season 3 of the Bad Batch. We check in with Huntah, Wrickah, Crussheeuh, Omeega, Bitcha, and the rest before the big 4-episode finale.
This is the Nerf Herder Council.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on Facebook and YouTube, not only our page and channel, but that of the Virtual Cantina Network. Real quick, before we get rolling, don't forget, speaking of the Virtual Cantina Network, there might be some bad language during this episode, and the views of the Nerf Herder Council don't necessarily reflect those of the Virtual Cantina Network. AJ, why are you interrupting my monologue? As usual, guys, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. Don't forget, if you are watching on YouTube, either on our channel or that of the Virtual Cantina Network, click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. If you would like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. That is literally the only place on the planet where you can get your very own Chewbacca's family t-shirt or sweatshirt or coffee mug or whatever the hell you want. And if you guys are looking for Virtual Cantina Network swag, which kicks ass, you can go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. So now, without further ado, let me bring him back onto the show. Don't ever click into my monologue again. How are you doing?
I didn't mean to click into your monologue. I just lost every USB device I had. This setup is awesome. We're so professional.
Well, I really need to be clear on this. I have told you for years to get a good setup that works and don't fucking touch it. You haven't done it. I have. And magically, you are always the one with the problem.
Well, if our Patreon took off a little bit more, I could buy a computer with more than 2 USB ports, and then I wouldn't have to have a dock that likes to come unplugged at the wrong time. So
I don't want to hear that crap. Are you kidding me?
It's not a problem, dude. We just need like 650 more Patreon subscribers at the $3 level, and I will be golden.
You doubled my cost for this show monthly without even asking, and I'm not the one pimping out Patreon. I just absorbed the cost, and you're sitting there bitching about needing a new computer that by the way, Mr. I need a Mac, Mr. Technological Everything, Mr. Manager, International Manager who does a computer job. If you don't have a good fucking computer, that is your fault. We're off and running on the Nerf Herder Council. Well, let's get to
scintillating introduction. How you doing tonight, JT?
I'm doing awesome, man. I'm a little high strung. The Masters begins tomorrow morning, but I've already been watching all of yesterday morning and all of today, so I'm pumped up. It's emotional. Like, you know, bring up something real quick. It's definitely going to be an emotional 4 days for me because, you know, as we talked about, you know, our dad passed, about 3 months ago almost at this point. And my thing with him was golf, and the Masters was the event. And so this is my first Masters in 41 years that I will not be watching with him or talking about it with him. So, I'm a little keyed up. I'm nervous. I'll be completely honest. I'm not going to get all weepy, but I'm not doing very well with it at all. But I'm excited because it is the most
the Augusta background.
Yes,
I was wondering about that.
Yep, this is the iconic 12th hole at Augusta National. I'm in corner, so here we go. Let's get to some comments here. So, Horsehead, it's such a great. What's up, man? Live and in color. I'm here for the cussing. Oh my God, Greg Wareham, what's up, man? My good buddy Greg from Billy Like Soda. I feel like your post was translated into a foreign language. It might have just been translated into Orabesh due to the cursing, Greg, I think. Kale McLeish, awesome to see you as always, man. John's back to wearing a hat. Hope this isn't a result of the last talking into infinity. No, I haven't been doing my hair. Kale, sounds like a very like wimpy thing to say, but I have really bad sunburn.
Show it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to I'm on a roll. It's time to go solo. So I'm going solo. So do that new fancy thing, AJ. Here we go. So yeah. So as you can tell, I was wearing a snapback hat on Monday for the eclipse. My band played a show on top of a parking garage in Lima, Ohio, and my dumbass wasn't even thinking about the sun or sunscreen or any of those sorts of things. And as a result, that's what you get. And so I, using the blow dryer like burns the shit out of my skin. So yeah, so it's a hat. I could take the beating. I can take the beating where my hair is concerned, Kale. Don't worry. But
God, dude, that is like the worst sunburn I've ever seen. Like, you might as well have had a dick like in suntan lotion, like done into your head or something.
I've had worse. But yeah, so I'm excited for the Masters. You and I had a really goddamn good time this past Saturday. My stepson Dom turns 23 today, but we went out for dinner to celebrate him this past Saturday, and then AJ came back to my place, and it was myself, my wife Steph, and my two stepkids, and we ended up sitting there just drinking, doing shots, and playing some of that Jackbox stuff on PlayStation. And it got to a dark place that game took us.
Yes.
But yeah, we were a little offensive. We decided, let's see how offensive we can be, and oh boy, did we succeed! But we had a great time, man. It was a lot of fun. Celebrated my stepson, and it's been a good several days. And looking forward to tonight. The question here is, AJ, before we get into tonight's topic, we can either go spoiler for today's episode, or we cannot go spoiler for today's episode.
Tough. I think we can go spoiler free. There's not a whole lot that needs discussed about today's episode for the rest of the conversation to make sense.
Well, I say that we let. I just happen to have a chance cue here. We'll let fate decide. So I have a random number generator pulled up, and I say that if it's an even number, spoiler. If we odd number, no spoilers.
Fair.
All right. So let's do it. I wish we had a drum roll, but we don't. So, excuse me. Let's do it. Here we go. Oh, it's 81. No spoilers for today's episode. Okay. Cale McLeish, thank you, man. Thank you for wishing Dom a happy birthday. That's awesome, man. Love you, dude. All right. So we will not be giving spoilers for today's episode of The Bad Batch. So we'll lay off of that. By the way, speaking of spoilers, I accidentally completely screwed over a good friend at work, huge Star Wars buddy. And a couple weeks ago, I hadn't seen the last two episodes. And he was like, spoilers or no spoilers? I'm like, no, don't spoil. Like, I'm not a spoiler guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he was super cool about it. So this morning he hits me up and he says, and I didn't catch the first part of his message. He said, I'm 1 or 2 episodes behind, but how do you feel about a certain someone coming back and blah, 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 doing all this stuff? And I said, oh, dude, Cad Bane, like, hell yeah, man. Like,
Oh, no.
And he goes, no, I meant Ventress. I told you I was 1 or 2 episodes behind. I was like, oh my God, I just spoilered the guy who purposely didn't spoiler me. I felt like such an ass.
That's bad karma, man. That's going to come back to bite you in the ass.
It is, man. It's bad juju. It's bad juju. So, yeah. So that was my Star Wars karma for the day. And at the end of the show, I have a very quick question to see if the chat has an opinion, and one for you. It's a total non sequitur, so I'm not even bringing it up till the end of the show. But I don't do sports betting at all. I don't do gambling at all. The only thing I gamble on is the Masters. And I'm wondering what my strategy should be, because I have two schools of thought. So I just want like just a goofy at the end of the show, like 2-minute thing. So obviously that's an hour from now. So enough screwing around.
You might as well have asked me to fill out your March Madness bracket. I have no insight on that whatsoever.
Well,
dude.
it's literally just it's like, what theory do I go with? Like what should my strategy? Not who should I bet on, this, that, and the other. It's like, no, like I can do this or I can do this. Which one do you think is better? So no one gives a shit about that. At the end of the show, when people are tuning out, I'll bring it up. So see, Kale's on. There we go. Kale's on point. Well, I suggest a new strategy. Let the Wookiee win. You guys are the best. Horsehead, spoiled by the spoilers. All right. So man. we are talking once again about Bad Batch season 3. Real quick, Skip Ruckle. Tiger says he can win again. Tiger can barely walk. He's not sure he can make it through 18 holes. So Tiger's full of crap, Skip. All right. Bad Batch season 3. So I'm going to fall back on what I've already said about this season. It's excellent. I think it's some of the best story writing they've done. And not just as the season goes on, I'm changing my opinion to saying I'm not comparing it just against the animated stuff, but I think in live, I can compare it to live action stuff because it's getting that good for me. I'm like sucked in emotionally to a cartoon, and it just, it keeps building on itself. And I think at the very least and again, I haven't gotten through all of the Clone Wars or much of it. Mm-hmm. But I've gotten through most of everything else that's animated. At least that's, storyline, not like Tales of the Jedi. That's kind of like sidebar shit. I'm going to say it is not only the best, but the best by far writing they've done in an animated property. I love it. I think it's amazing.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a follow-up question then.
Okay.
What is it about the writing that hooks you so well?
So there are so many times in the past, like the stories, we've talked before about how they have filler episodes, and Bad Batch season 2 fell into that category. Obviously, we ad nauseum, we've beaten that dead horse about Rebels going into that realm of just, every other frickin' episode is like, what's the point? But I think it's starting to become a question of dialogue. I'm noticing a lot of times where something will happen and you can kind of think, okay, he's going to say something cheesy here because that's what happens in a cartoon and has happened in the Star Wars cartoons, but it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. Like the writing is getting much more mature, and it makes a lot more sense, but it also at the same time is not taking away from the fact that it is a little bit more geared for children, because that is kind of what the animated stuff kind of goes for. And I think that they're perfectly balancing that line.
I'm going to challenge that, actually. I'm going to challenge that this is written. I guess. No, in fact, no, I'm just going to say this is just Star Wars. This is not Star Wars written for children. It's not. I don't think this is written for children any more than any live action series is written for children. We just had a couple of episodes where one of them didn't even have the Bad Batch in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was entirely just this Imperial scientist having a shitty time of things and dealing with children who didn't want to be there, who realized that they were captives. That's dark, man. That is just straight up dark.
Skip Ruckle completely agrees. He says, "True that." I think I agree with you in that context as well.
What's really impressive though is that like we know what the larger stakes are as far as like what experiments they're doing at Tantus and what they're trying to achieve, but they've managed to keep the Emperor out of it for the most part, and still, like to your point, the quality of the writing is such that these individual character stories hit us so hard that the stakes feel like they're just as high as the entire galaxy being at war.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's even to the point where, you're watching, today's episode, and no spoilers, but we know what characters are in it. I realized, like, I'm sitting there, you're watching Huntah, Wrickah, and Crussheeuh. I'm sorry, Huntah, Wrickah, and Crussheeuh, running around, whereas, earlier in the season, it was Huntah, Wrickah, and Echo. But then last season, Wrickah, and it keeps changing. And there was a scene where the three of them were running, in today's episode, they're running towards whatever they got to do. And I'm thinking, God damn, like they have this amazing plan. You believe that they're going to kick ass, but there's still a lot of like, oh my God, can they pull it off? But it's only 3 of the 5. And it's not the 3 of the 5 that started the season. And it's not 4 of the 5. It's, the whole emotional aspect of Crosshair coming back into the fold and him kind of being reintegrated. I mean, the writing is, I mean, dude, it is brilliant.
I wanted to ask you about that actually.
Okay.
I mean, Star Wars has a major problem with no one ever being truly dead. I mean, as long as we're not talking episode 12 spoilers, we can talk about the lightsaber wielder who came back, right? Because you already talked about it earlier. So
yeah,
somehow Asajj Ventress came back from the dead, and of course Darth Maul came back from the dead.
I should have. Damn it! I forgot to do. There's an explanation of how Ventress came back, and I think I remember it. So I will bring that up when it comes up. But my buddy today that I spoiled, unfortunately, explained it, and it was from, apparently it's canon. So I think I have the explanation. But anyway, so you wanted to ask me.
We'll come right back to that. So based on all the, yeah, exactly.
Okay, somehow Ventress returned. Nice. Sorry. Anyway,
Dark magic secrets only the Sith knew. Anyway, yeah. So, do you think that we're gonna see Tick come back? This show seems to have real stakes. I don't think they're gonna do that,
dude. I am 150% on the fence about that because of what you just said. Like, there are real stakes. It is so emotional. And aren't you just waiting every episode? Like when you feel like there's going to be some big reveal, it's going to be Tick,
right,
coming back. And so
those goggles were totally a plant. Those weren't those weren't the real ones, or they may be, but he wasn't wearing them.
Yeah. I mean, like I could see it going either way. I literally, I'm not leaning either way.
Do you want him to stay dead?
Being truthful, no. I mean,
I'm the opposite. I'm going to say yes. Not that I didn't like the character, but this show has stakes. And like you said, now that one of them has been offed, it does seem like it's possible for any of them to be in peril.
Yeah, but I mean, okay. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. I just, in almost any other circumstance, I would actually be the guy who would say, no, keep him dead. But there's just something about the way they would do it in this that I think they would pull it off. And I think it might be kind of cool. Yeah, Skip Ruckle. I can't disagree. Skip Ruckle says it cheapens the death if he comes back. Kale McLeish, similar sentiment. He says, last night watching the new one, I actually said, you know what? Thank God Tech's still dead. Otherwise, this show would just not be as strong. Yeah, I do want him to come back, but I'm fine if he doesn't. And I feel like they've done it other times where someone's dead. Oh, they're not dead. And it's wait a minute, he's not dead. He'd be so dead in a movie. Let's not mention that episode, even though it's the funniest thing we've ever done. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like they've done it before, and it's been just, landed like a fart in church. But I feel like for this show, they could pull it off. Like I really. And I don't know. There's just something about the fact that it's only 3 seasons. Echo's been gone for now, like the better part. I mean, if you really kind of add it up, it's like close to at least 3/4 of a season of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
And Crosshair was pretty much gone for a lot of the time. I don't know. There's just something about. If they're all there standing at the end, that would kind of be awesome to me, just from the concept of it, but also because I really feel like they've finally gotten into a groove with the writings where they would do it and it would be cool. And I don't think it would cheapen the death. I mean, Skip and Kale, you guys are not wrong. I completely agree that that's usually what happens. 99 out of 100. I just feel like this is the 1 of 100 that they might actually be able to pull it off.
Are you worried about the Ahsoka problem?
What, that the show's going to turn into shit and just be live action Rebels and have fucking god awful stupid space fucking whales? No, I'm not at all. Next question.
Okay, I was going to say the Ahsoka problem of, okay, well, if this person lived through this series of events, where the hell were they in the original trilogy?
That's a good question. I don't think so, because I think if you have the Bad Batch out there, I think there's still open storylines throughout the Star Wars universe, as we're speaking right now, to where they could be brought back. So,
I was also not that big of a fan of Tick anyway. I thought him and Iko were a little bit redundant. But
I do get them confused. I will admit.
But you know what? I will give them credit to the power of the writing again. Like, there are moments with each of these characters that I can remember throughout all the seasons. One in particular with Tick that hit me hard, and I think I said this on our season 3 preview show, where after our dad died, I was watching that episode where they're mining for something on a planet, and he's in a cave with Omeega, and he was basically being standoffish about Crussheeuh being stuck with the Empire, and she's like, how can you not feel something about this? And he's like, well, just because I don't react in a way that most people do doesn't mean I don't have feelings. And I'm like, wow, man, because I've been through that in my own head since January, because I feel like you're processing normally and things are hitting you, and I'm just like, life goes on, buddy. It's all okay. And I'm like, when is it going to hit me like a normal person? Because I should be more upset outwardly than I am. And so in that moment, in that scene, I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, I live my life through Star Wars stories to help me connect with people emotionally, because real life doesn't really hit me that way.
Look at Skip. Skip, he's on the spectrum.
I think he is. I think he is a little bit. But I feel seen.
Oh, man. We're going to get canceled for that comment, bringing that up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, my gosh.
But yeah, the writing is fantastic. But like I said, I think the show would be so much stronger if they just let the character be dead. I'm trying to think of animated deaths and who's actually like died and stayed dead. And Savage Opress is, I think, like the only one I can think of.
This is going to be ignorant of me, but
in Captain Tarpals. Sorry, Grievous offs Captain Tarpals in an episode of the Clone Wars.
Okay. There's one of those trivia questions. Is it Captain Tarpals or the other guy? God damn it! By the way, speaking of Van Halen, trivia, Van Halen trivia, I blew that. Never mind. Speaking of trivia, we win Star Wars trivia.
Do it better.
Yeah. Speaking of trivia, we always win Star Wars trivia. I did Van Halen trivia against a bunch of Van Halen nerds the other night, and I actually won. At least the first 4 rounds. The 5th round was all trivia about the show, and I only discovered the show like 3 weeks ago. But in the Van Halen rounds, I actually beat a bunch of other super nerds, and it was really difficult trivia, so I'm very proud of that. Anyway, back to your regularly good. What the fuck is going on with me? Back to your regularly scheduled programming. Jesus Christ!
All right, let me help you out. Okay, so let's talk about like what's going on in season 3 so far, because we already recapped 1 and 2 already. So season 3, I feel like hit the ground running.
Yes.
Like I was actually surprised. Were you surprised at how quickly they escaped Tantus?
No. I think there's been a few things with this season that have gotten to the point a little quicker than you would expect, but I think it's because they have to. You know, as soon as you announce, hey, it's the last season, like, okay, you can't really screw around anymore. Like, let's get, I mean, to quote one of our favorite movies, can you get to the point, shithead? Like, so, Kale, you can always just edit this part out for the audio version. John has had a stroke. Kale, apparently so, man. It's the sunburn. I'm going to blame it on the sun. Yeah, I think, they kind of have to get, move along a little quicker. But by the same token, I also think they've kind of focused the story down a lot to where, they can jump from point to point a little quicker and it makes sense.
True. There was a lot of speculation before the season started that the storyline of season 3 was going to be trying to get to Tantus to rescue her. Yeah. So I was actually kind of surprised. It tracks for the character that she got out and got Crussheeuh out, but I thought that would have been a cool like alternate storyline. This whole thing of like how do they get there and have a whole like what is it 16 episodes, right? Have at least like 8 of them be like how the hell do we even find her? And you could have that's the way you could have those kind of like one-off episodes where it's a self-contained little chapter, but it makes sense because it's one more step along the journey of this path of finding Mount Tantus to begin with, Yeah,
but I agree with that, but I think I think in the end, when we look at this show in totality, when you look at it as like, 3 seasons, I think it's going to be quite obvious. And I would be very surprised at this point if there are fans. I think the common ranking is going to be season 3, season 1, season 2 in terms of popularity. And I think there might be some argument to be made for season 1, then season 3, then season 2. But season 2 is just kind of all over the map. I enjoy
transitional.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed it, but it was like, what are we doing here? And as we've said many times, it just gets too close to that Rebels shit of what are we doing here? What's the point?
But whereas they have some really awesome episodes in it, though. So even the lows aren't that low.
Well, exactly.
Oh my god! Like the Outpost. Remember that episode where it was all Crussheeuh and I forget the other clone's name, but to your point, like they called back to that this season. That snow-covered base that they went to was the same damn base that had been abandoned by the Empire after it was overrun.
Yep.
I was like, that is such an amazing detail. They didn't need to do that, but if you're paying attention, like I love that, man. The people that are making this stuff, they know their shit so well that they can write these things in there and they do it in such a way that if you don't know the reference, you're not going to miss out on anything. Like the story makes sense anyway, but if you do, it's so much better.
Yeah.
And that has to be such a hard, fine line to walk,
Well, Well, and but I mean, we've talked about that with Mando, where it's, you know, if you're a huge Star Wars nerd, you get into it and you notice all of the little Easter eggs and all that kind of stuff, right? But if you're not a huge nerd, you can still get into it because the story's that good and the characters are that interesting. So it's like, I think they've gotten so good at doing that. You know, these writers have walked that line in just a fabulous fashion. It appeals to both sides of the fence, you know, the super fan or the casual fan. You know, they could both get into it. I mean, there's enough there for the casual fan, whereas, you know, idiots like you and me, like, oh my God, you see that little thing from Clone Wars season 2? You know, like, I mean, it's awesome how they're doing that. So yeah, I just, like I say, I mean, I wish there were more seasons of this show, but from what you said about this season was supposed to be, before it was announced, it was the last season, like just them getting to Tantus and trying to find Omeega. I feel like that would have kind of gone off the rails again into that whole, oh, here's this other bullshit thing there. Oh, here's this other bullshit thing. Like, no, get to fucking Tantus, will you already? You know, like, I mean, come on, let's stay on point here. And
you're all about the destination, not the journey. Okay.
Well, but here's the thing, like, but when part of the journey has nothing to do with it, I mean, you know, like, I mean, I'll go back to the pod racing episode in season 2. What did that matter? And there were several episodes where you're like, where are we going? Like, I mean, think about it. If you ask, you know, I don't know, 20 fans of Bad Batch, what the hell was the point of season 2? Where were they going? How many of them would go, oh, it was this, they're trying to, like, no, most of them would probably be like, oh man, that's a good question. Whereas this season, you know exactly what they're doing. Season 1, you know exactly what they're doing. Season 2 is like, what is this? Like, why am I, it was like a sitcom where every week there's a new zany adventure. You know, oh, they got locked out of their spaceship. Wah, 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 wah. Laugh track. Oh, I guess I shouldn't have dropped them down into the, you know, like that's what it was, which is fine if that's what you're going to do, but that's not the point. Like, this is supposed to be going somewhere. So I think that's why seasons 1 and 3 have been better, because they're going somewhere. And this season is obviously going somewhere because we know it's the last season. But it's emotional as shit. I mean, Kale mentioned it in the comments up above. Like the episode with you know, where it was just the kids in that one cell, he cried. And I admit, Kale, I'm with you. I didn't cry per se, but that was a tough watch. I mean, that's really like, wow, this is really digging kind of deep, man.
I might be a little dead inside, but Robot Chicken saved me on that one. Like, every time that kid's coming up all sweet, I'm just thinking Robot Chicken with like, please, Master Skywalker, can my gift just be a hug? I got some fresh cut sunflowers, so I put them on the table. Oh, Andy, you're so sweet. Ah! Oh my God. I mean, look, Kale has 2 awesome comments. He says, nowhere. They were wasting time to get to season 3. That's what he's saying about season 2. And about season 2 as well. He says more goddamn fetch quests. Yeah, that's really what it was. I mean, it was just kind of like, hey, we're gonna go get this thing. Okay, but why? Why? What are you doing? I don't give a shit. And Horsehead, Jeff Caffrey, dude, perfect. His Robot Chicken fucked the world. Damn right, dude. So anyway, I've got to correct you. I used to think that's what that was too. No, it's for the win. FTW is for the win.
No, I'm just that vulgar in my head. It's fuck the world.
I thought the same thing before until someone corrected me on it. So now I get to be the jerk.
Look, our mom does LOL wrong in emails on purpose, so I'm doing FTW wrong on purpose.
Okay. You're still not going to pin Hook for that championship, but unless you watch All Elite Wrestling, you don't have to get that reference. Anyway,
well played.
No, I think the main point of season 2 was Crussheeuh's story. That was to get him from being with the Empire to realizing he has no place with the Empire because the Empire doesn't give a shit about him. And then that, you know, inevitably led him to be at Tantus with Omeega, so they could, reunite. And I think that's why season 3 is awesome. Is like this whole time, I think the biggest strength of this show compared to like the Clone Wars, for example, is like Obi-Wan and Anakin were known quantities. You knew where their story began with episode 2. You knew where it was going to go to episode 3, and they had that narrow window to play in. Now we've got these brand new characters. We don't know what's going to happen to them, and we don't know like what their end point is as characters. So as they're making these choices, we don't know how it's going to play out, which is awesome. Like, when Crosshair walked away, you just know, like with with the hope being the overarching theme of Star Wars in general.
Very good cover right there. Very good cover. Sounded like you were about to spoil something from today's episode.
Oh, no. Just the idea that, like when Crosshair split from the group and chose to stay with the Empire, you're like, he's going to find his way back. Like, he's not just going to get evil and stay evil. It's like your point about Vader. Like, Vader would have sucked if he just like started out bad and stayed bad, and that was it. So like his redemption arc has been cool, but they've been very careful to track that and be like, all right, he's not so sure about how to get along with these people because he knows what he's done, and they don't forget either. So everyone that he's shafted in the past, they're like keeping an eye on him. Like, I don't know about this guy.
Right.
So I love that. And I think that's one of the major strengths of the show is we've got all new characters to deal with. I was afraid, actually. I was afraid when the show came out because I told you I wasn't really a fan of the whole like mutated clones and all that business.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like that, with brand new characters, you can get unpredictable outcomes. I was afraid I would have a hard time latching onto these characters because they're not central to the Skywalker saga.
And what's interesting is that you're the one that like is a huge fan of the Clone Wars, and you had that worry, and I'm the one that can't get through the Clone Wars, and I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. Like it's weird how we're like on opposite ends of the spectrum on this one. Like it's I'm surprised that you weren't like all pumped up for it because it was like an extension of Clone Wars. This just seems like it'd be right up your alley.
It was just a weird pivot because the whole point of clones was that they were all the same and they were disposable. They were living creatures, but they were basically disposable. They're cannon fodder. That was the point. So, they already had 7 seasons of a show that was supposed to be, and that's the way they hyped it up originally, was like, they're going to tell the boots on the ground story. But then they pivoted because Anakin and Obi-Wan were the most interesting characters, and Dave Filoni fell in love with his own creation in Ahsoka. So it became less about the clones and more about Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Anakin. So we missed that opportunity with the clones, but I was like, they're not supposed to be individuals. So already the conceit of the Clone Wars is a little off of what I got from the movies to begin with. And now when they're coming out and being like, not only are they individual clones, but these clones don't even look like the others, and they have basically superhero powers. I'm like, that's a hard pill to swallow. That's a riff on a riff on a riff until you end up nowhere near the original premise, But they've made it work to their credit. So
yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think to your point, like, I mean, admittedly, I was a little bit. It wasn't really a turnoff. It was just at the beginning, like, okay, like Hunter's just like, I mean, basically Hunter to me is Captain America. Let's face it,
mm-hmm.
And then you've got, Wrickah, who's, the Hulk, I guess, in a way, but, good Hulk from the later movies. But, they do have kind of superpowers, but it kind of, boy, you fucked that up. Get that. Oh, AJ, there you go. AJ just lost his feed on the show. Okay. So yeah, I think, I'll just keep rolling. Fuck it. We're doing it live. Yeah, I think, they each had like a superpower, like AJ was saying, but as the seasons have gone on, I think they kind of mellowed out on it. I think the best example of that is Wrickah, because Wrickah, when it started out, was he could lift anything, destroy anything, just kick ass, and doesn't matter. Well, as the show's gone on, like, you see him And we're back. We see him doing those quote unquote feats of strength, but it's well timed. It's still kind of superhuman, but it's a little more believable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not quite like it was. And Hunter's just been Hunter because, again, I don't think I'm wrong in kind of comparing him to, being Captain America. He's just like the good guy with the good plan who's always going to be the leader guy. And so I think they've kind of tempered that, but they started, like I said, the first half of season 1, each guy was used to their maximum potential. And then as it went on, they kind of were like, it was, this situation could use a little bit of tick. This situation could use a little bit of Iku. Crussheeuh, like, he's not here. Like, so I think it goes back to the writing, which is thankfully, with the television programming, be it live action or animated, even the animated stuff I don't like, I know a ton of people do. They are really getting an absolutely beautiful handle on what the fans like to see, but also what makes a good story. And so it's like they're writing for the fans, but they're not delving into that territory of what they say in the NFL. Like, if you cater to the fans, you're going to be sitting with the fans, meaning you're going to lose your job. So I think they are absolutely doing just a great job of, paying attention to what, the fans might kind of like this, but okay, we'll give them a little bit of that, but we need to tell a good story here because at the heart of everything, Star Wars fans want a good goddamn story. Mm-hmm. Because, we love the characters in the original trilogy, but why are 3 movies now the basis of what, in 3 years is going to be 50 years of entertainment? Think about, put that in perspective. Name another property that has gone for what will be a half a century and still have active content, and active. It not nearly on the level as Star Wars, dude. Not nearly on the level of Star Wars. It's close. If you consider close being like Star Wars is a 90 and Star Trek is a 10. So I'll give. I'm not wrong. Where Star Wars Celebration, where's Star Trek Celebration? There isn't one. If there is, I'm not familiar with it. And as a giant nerd, I would know those things. When does Star Trek have basically let's face it, the genesis of Disney Plus pretty much was Star Wars content. They knew there was a market there.
Yeah. The Mandalorian was the flagship show.
Exactly. There's nothing like that with Star Trek, excuse me. So Star Wars is that goddamn popular. And the whole basis of it are 3 movies put out in 1977, 1980, and 1983. Mm-hmm. And the whole reason we love it, sure, like, I love Luke Skywalker, Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon changed my life. But if it was just like dumb fucking, space dudes running around kicking ass, okay, but there's
I got a beef. I'm going to cut you off because you just totally stirred something. Talking season 3 Bad Batch. What the hell is it with Star Wars blowing up ships that I love? We lost the Razor Crest, and now the Marauder's gone too. What the hell? I'm trying not to drop an F-bomb to be like too crass, but seriously, WTF? This is ridiculous. We get attached to these ships, and they're like, no, we're going to blow it up. The Millennium Falcon is the only ship in the galaxy that has plot armor too thick to pierce.
That's why they're doing it, because they can't blow up the Falcon. I have it on good. I'm very
They're just mad at every other ship that everybody loves.
You know what, dude? I swore I would never do this on the show. Put me in Solo. I swore I would never, ever divulge this information. But, all right. Breaking news here on the Nerf Herder Council. I was sworn to secrecy by Disney, by Lucasfilm. So you guys are going to find something out you've never known before. The reason that they keep blowing up ships that AJ loves, excuse me, and a lot of other fans love, but they leave the Millennium Falcon alone, is because, and again, I have this on Good Resource, the Good Resource being literally one of the two of the top 3 executives in the entire company at Disney Lucasfilm, that they watch the show and they realize that there's no fucking way they're going to blow up the Millennium Falcon. So blow anything else up you want. Leave the fucking Falcon alone. I said, leave the Falcon alone. So guess what they're doing? They're leaving the fucking Falcon alone. I made that happen. And I know that because Bob Iger himself sent me an apology email. And I can put it up on the screen if you want, but I don't know how to do that. That's the only reason I'm not doing it. But I made it happen. The Millennium Falcon will survive in perpetuity while everything else around it is destroyed because I made it happen. It's because of me and the Nerf Herder Council.
The Falcon will survive in perpetuity because they're not going to make any more content that contains it.
Listen, shithead.
That ship might as well be dead.
All right. If AJ is going to do that, then I will just take him out and go on a dumb screen myself. Well, AJ can come back when he stops being a disrespectful dickhead. It's actually all true. I have all the emails and receipts to back it. I was not just ranting to be funny on the show. Bob Iger himself did say he saw our show and said that I'm right. Like he realized that he was a dumb bastard. J.J. Abrams is a fucking prick for killing Han Solo. He stopped just one tick short of asking me to be a new writer for Star Wars. I saw where he was going. I told him, yeah, you know what, dude? I think they can do better than I can. So I'm going to step down. I mean, I know I could do a kick-ass job, but, you know, I mean, if I'm in there, then I'm just going to have to kick J.J. Abrams in the balls repeatedly for about, 17 straight days for Purgle and The World Between Worlds and Rebels. Or actually, Rebels isn't him, but I could blame him technically. Could I? Nah, I'm still going to blame him because he killed Han Solo. So, all right. Well, AJ looks like he's had enough. So, all right. What have we learned?
That the Falcon is an old ship.
All right, AJ's going back in timeout. I don't understand why he doesn't understand like if you're that wrong, shut up. We're wrong on this show all the time, but not like that. All right, you're back. Are you done now?
Am I back? I don't know.
Well, look. Stop ripping on the goddamn Millennium Falcon. I don't have Han Solo anymore. So you leave the fucking Falcon alone.
I feel like the damn kid at Tantus getting put in timeout for trying to escape. It's ridiculous.
Listen. Okay. Look, okay. I don't have Han Solo anymore. So leave the Falcon alone. It would be like on my music show.
You mean like Disney's leaving the Falcon alone and not using it in shows?
Dude, seriously, I'm going to quit the show. It would be like, God damn it, you popped my balloon.
But seriously, the Falcon is like indestructible. You can never blow up the Falcon. But apparently that's the only ship that has that going for it. We got all hooked on the Razor Crest. That's why it's still up there on my shelf back there. And I love the Marauder too. I'm already scouring AliExpress for some sort of fan design knockoff of that ship so I can get minifigure scale Marauder. I want that so bad. And I already have that. I've got a whole pile of bricks there that are just nothing but rubble behind me. So I might as well just call that the Marauder at this point because they blew the damn thing up. It's bullshit, man.
Yeah, dude,
I can deal with Tick falling to his death. I cannot deal with the Marauder dying. All right.
They do seem to have a habit of that, unfortunately. I mean, to close out the Falcon thing, I think the Falcon is just... I'll be honest. I think had they not killed off Han Solo, I think they might have blown up the Falcon. Because they could have gone, oh, well, at least you still got, Han Solo.
Man, I didn't want to get sidetracked on this, but I just got to follow the conversation thread.
That's all right.
Why do you think that they were able to kill Han Solo and not the Falcon? They killed off one of their most popular characters before they blew up a ship.
I don't have a good answer for that. what I will say is that I think, Kale said it, like Harrison Ford wanted, the character to go. It harkens back to the whole Lawrence Kasdan writing, during Return of the Jedi, like, someone's got to go, like, to add the emotional gravitas to it. But I think they underestimated, and by they I mean J.J. Abrams. Again, I'm sorry, like J.J. Abrams really fucked up with episode 7 and 9. He really did. As a Star Wars fan, like he really fucked up. He just did. And I think saying someone's got to go, and when you kill off Han Solo, I think he's thinking, well, Chastity Crawley. I think if they blew up the Falcon, fans would find the execs in their houses might go the same way as the Falcon. That's true. That's true. Yeah, I just think, the thought process is not wrong. Like, if you kill a major character, it does add some, weight to it. We're just talking about tech. Mm-hmm. Skip Ruckley and Kale and a couple other people, like, no man, you got to keep him dead, like otherwise it doesn't mean anything, but killing a major character, it does have that thing. I think it was Kale was asking about who's the assassin. I don't know about you, but every time I see the assassin on screen, I'm going, I'm waiting for that to eventually come out to be tech, like a reprogrammed tech or something. So, but anyway,
the same way that Echo was being used by the Separatists.
Yeah.
And they had to rescue him.
Yeah. So I think when they killed Han, I understand the logic of that because technically that works. But I think what they completely underestimated is technically, well played. Very well played. I think what they completely underestimated is the fact that you hadn't seen Han Solo on screen since 1983. So you're talking about, oh God, what is it? 34 years or whatever the hell it was, like something like that. Like, or 32 years, whatever the fuck it was. When you kill a character like that, like the whole world's been waiting to see that character, and you're like, oh, guess what? We're going to use him as emotional clickbait. Everyone's like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you give me Han Solo back, and let's be honest. As much as I joke about it on this show about being pissed off that happened, being honest, and I'm sure the show knows, I'm fucking serious. That's bullshit. What the fuck? It's like, and part of my terminology here, but there's going to be dirty words on the show. Does not necessarily reflect the views of the virtual canteen. That's a fucking dick tease. You give me Han Solo for 2/3 of a movie and go, nah, see, like, well, what's the point of that? Like, why? And so after that, I think at that point, they kind of went, I think there was so much as a lot of the fan base was like, okay, I get it. I'm cool with it. Awesome. I think there were so many people that were like, fuck that they went, oop, I guess we better not fuck with the Falcon. I mean, look at, dude, episode 9, perfect example.
You just brought it all the way back. Brought it all the way back.
Well, wait a minute. Let me finish.
You were right. Basically, fans like you were so pissed off. They're like, well, we can't kill characters anymore. What can we do? Oh, we could blow up ships. That's what we can do.
Go JT. But I was also right because J.J. Abrams, he fucked up killing Han in episode 7, learned his lesson. Look what happened with Chewie in episode 9. We were all like, oh my God, they blew up Chewbacca. 2 minutes and 37 seconds later. Nope, Chewie's fine. Like,
yeah, they didn't even let that one marinate long enough to get anyone hooked on that idea.
Is that not a knee-jerk reaction? Is that not a knee-jerk reaction to, oh shit, I better not piss people off thinking I killed one of their favorite characters? He did it wrong in both respects. Number 1, don't kill Han. Number 2, make the Chewie thing play out to where you're like, holy shit. But no. Okay, Kale. Kale says, having watched Force Awakens again on Saturday, Han's death works. No, it doesn't. There's no fucking point to it. He's a fucking scoundrel. If you want to write Han out, write him out of the story and being like, have him actually do what he didn't do in the original trilogy. In the original trilogy, he's like, hey man, I'm just gonna go be, I'm a good guy now. I'm gonna go be a good guy. I was a scoundrel. Now I'm a good guy. How about now? Have him go, you know what? Fuck this. I helped you. I'm out. I'm a scoundrel. And then you're like, what the shit? He went back to, and then you have that specter of Han hanging over you for episode 8 and 9. Like, is he coming back? Like we have with Tick in Bad Batch. You've got that specter there. Like, do a reverse. Like, don't just. So anyway.
The one thing we haven't circled back on is you said you have an explanation for Asajj Ventress coming back.
Yes. So apparently this is canon. Let me see if I can remember this properly. Apparently, like when she died, and I don't know the Quinlan Voss book or whatever. It was something with Tyrannus, right?
Dark Disciple.
Yeah. And apparently, like the Night Sisters revived her is the long and short of it. So
that is not anywhere in the book.
That's what I'm wondering. I
have read it.
Well, I have not. So, but yeah, I don't know where this was from. I'll have to ask my work buddy. But he sent me this big. It was a screen cap. It wasn't like something like. But he copied and pasted from the internet. It was like a screenshot, and basically like, he took her body back to the night. Something put her body in stasis, and then a couple months later or something. It had something to do with Obi-Wan helped out or something. But like he went to say his last goodbye through the Force and felt something and. Whatever, but the long and short of it is the Night Sisters brought her back.
Maybe. We've only got 4 episodes left of this show, and they said that they had taken that book into consideration. Do you think we're actually going to get an explanation in this series, or is this another one for, I don't know, Tales of the Bounty Hunters or Tales of the Sith or whatever they come up with after Tales of the Empire?
I don't, especially with 4 episodes remaining, I don't think there's any room for the Ventress story. I think you need to get to the end of what's happening here. Otherwise, there's just no room.
Does that piss you off? Like that's a big retcon right there. Enough people know that she's dead.
Well, but wait a minute though,
and to then go into press and be asked about it and be like, "Yeah, we're aware of that. We thought of that." Okay, and then you don't tell us. Like what?
But I don't. See, I can't honestly comment on that because not knowing where that came from. I mean, it very well could be he might have pulled it off Wikipedia or StarWars.com or something. Like I don't know. So maybe it's out there and we're just like way behind the fucking 8 ball. Like we're the last ones to.
No, the Bad Batch writers have said they're aware of Dark Disciple and they're honoring the events of that book. So she very definitely did die, but now she's alive, and they haven't explained how that happened. You can't bring a character back from the dead and then end your show and be like, maybe we'll tell you later.
But you can. I mean, that keeps Horsehead, Jeff, Tales of the Loose Ends.
I mean, yeah, it straight up breaks canon until it's explained. That's the problem.
Yeah, but
it's like we talked about Grogu being reunited with Din Djarin in Book of Boba Fett. Like season 3 of The Mandalorian starts and they're just hanging out again. You're like, the fuck happened? They were apart at the end of season 2. Now they're together at the beginning of season 3. You're just assuming that people have seen this other thing, this entire other show.
Yeah,
like to resurrect a character and then just be like, don't worry about it. We thought of that. Okay, well, what's the answer, stupid?
Right. I don't know, because especially with a character like Ventress, I think as soon as you reintroduce her and there's actually a canonical reason why she's back, that is such a popular character, but that I think that kind of, again, we dude, this whole thing keeps coming back to the quality of the writing. Yeah. Okay. So you would know this better than I would. So Skip Ruckle asks, timeline wise, when did she die?
Okay. A quick primer on Dark Disciple.
But real quick before you say that, a very simple answer. It was before Bad Batch. So technically she was supposed to be dead. So that's why we're bringing this up. So AJ, continue.
Yeah, so Dark Disciple was a book that was created. They had a couple other seasons of the Clone Wars written when the show got canceled. So they did a bunch of stuff to adapt those stories. We got comic books that explained Darth Maul, what happened to him after the Emperor whooped his ass in a lightsaber duel. They've straight up just contradicted other story reels and stuff that say they didn't happen, but they've kind of honored them off screen. Like Boba Fett was allegedly trained by Cad Bane. They showed footage of those story reels and those unfinished story arcs. Some of them did end up getting made, like for season 7 of the Clone Wars when they resurrected the series on Disney Plus. And then Dark Disciple was an 8-episode story arc planned for season, I guess it would have been season 7 at the time of the Clone Wars before season 7 was created. But it was an 8-episode story arc that was supposed to take place in 2 seasons beyond what aired last on Cartoon Network. And it was all about the Jedi Council basically putting a hit out on Count Dooku, saying like, we don't outright murder people, but we really need this guy gone. So we're going to contract this out. And they went to Quinlan Vos for it because he never really got along with the council anyway. And he contracted Asajj Ventress because Asajj Ventress, had been ousted and had beef with Dooku. So Quinlan Vos and Asajj Ventress end up hooking up, like actually hooking up. There are mature themes in that book, and she ends up dying.
They became one with the Force in a biblical sense.
Yes, they were very much in the living Force, not the cosmic Force. She felt the Force within her. Let's put it that way.
Too many lightsabers.
So anyway, yeah, she ended up dying by taking a lethal dose of Force lightning from Dooku that was meant for Quinlan.
Yeah.
And then months later, she ends up being interred in some pond or lake or something on Dathomir. And that's where her story ended. She died in that book. And now she's back in Bad Batch. And they're like, yeah, we're aware she died. We thought of that. And they're like, we're not going to tell you how it happened. And apparently 4 episodes to go. We're probably not going to find out in this show. So a dead character just came back to life. And we just get to wonder what the fuck.
I do have to say, when you're like, yeah, she was interred in a pond, I literally just picture people walking up with their body and being like,
pond?
No, just like her body, like just chucking it in the pond, like whoosh, like splash, like, so yeah, like, but yeah, it's like, I mean, this is something they're not just going to let hang. I mean, you have to say that about what they've done. Like, as much as we're waxing poetic about the writing and how good it is, we're not just fanboying. I mean, it is that good, and they have addressed pretty much everything you'd want them to address at some point. And again, we do have to remember that they are 3 years ahead of schedule. So things that we're talking about right now, bitching about, in 3 years, in 2027, we may have every single answer, plus 2 movies and 7 TV shows about it. Like, so I think, and again, I mentioned it earlier, the popularity of the character, I think, is something that they wouldn't mess with if they weren't going to say, hey, we're going to explain this, cool your jets.
Okay, true. Now, the hour is getting late, so let's look towards the future a little bit, since that's a good segue there.
Hold on real quick.
4 episodes left.
Okay, hold your thought. I'm actually banning someone from the chat for the first time ever, and it is Kale McLeish. Kale, this is the comment on screen right now for all of our audio viewers that really pissed me off, so I'm just going to bring up his first one. He says, Filoni should make this and then add a 9th episode that does a quick wrap-up of how she met up with the Bad Batch. Be worth more than Solo. Kale, you're literally the first person I'm banning from the chat. You don't, if you didn't learn anything from about 15 minutes ago, don't fuck with Han Solo. Don't fuck with the Millennium Falcon. And by proxy, that would obviously mean don't fuck with the movie Solo, especially on our show. And you and I have talked offline, Kale, about how much I love the film Solo. It's amazing. So why would you do that? So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to officially announce that it's forever been a show joke since we went to a video format, which was 4 years ago, something like that. Oh, get banned from the chat. No one's ever actually been banned from the chat until tonight. Cale McLeish is officially banned from the chat. AJ, you can jump back in. Can't believe it's Cale of all people to be the first one. But
Cale, we hardly knew ye.
All right, so back to your regularly scheduled programming. See, I said it right this time. So 4 episodes to go.
4 episodes to go. What do you think is happening? How does this show wrap up?
Dude, I tell you what, I've been wondering that. First of all, I think Tick is coming back. I think somehow they're all 5 going to be. There's going to be some big come to Jesus moment with, they're all there. I hate to say this, but I would not be surprised. I'm not predicting this because I hope it doesn't happen, because I think that, the Bad Batch could be some amazing characters in some storylines down the road. If you've got Rex alive way down the road, why can't you have the Bad Batch alive? But I would not be shocked to see this be a Rogue One situation where they accomplish their mission, but they all die in the process.
Wow, really? You think they're going to do that on an animated series, huh?
You said it tonight that this is not Star Wars for kids necessarily. It's just Star Wars. And they've introduced themes of death, especially. Oh, now this is a good one. Oh, Skip, this is a good one. Skip Ruckle says, Omeega, I'm sorry, I keep mispronouncing it. Omeega sacrifices herself to save the batch, and this is how Palpatine lives. That's not a bad theory.
I'm going on record and saying that Betcha rips Hemlock's nuts off.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Oh, see, now wait a minute. Fuck everybody else. Fuck the Bad Batch. Screw, I'm sorry. I have too many F-bombs tonight. Screw the Bad Batch. Screw all the human characters. If Batcher dies, we riot.
Yeah. This is where, like you said, like they're not pandering to the fans. Come on. They've got another child character as a central focus, and she's got a dog.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yep.
That is such low-hanging fruit.
Yep. But it's awesome. And dude, and I'm gonna be completely honest. They cannot kill. If they kill Batcher, I'm gonna cry. It will be the first time in my life that I will cry at a cartoon. I will cry if they kill Batcher. And it's some dumb alien looking thing that was like a murderous piece of trash for the first part of the season. And all of a sudden at the end, I'm crying because it reminds me of a dog.
Yeah.
And dude, Cale, you're right. That's exactly what I was thinking. I by the way, I did ban Cale from the chat, but I brought him back. I felt bad. Cale's a good friend. His band Lines of Conviction has an awesome record out. Go look up the band Lines of Conviction. His record is out on music platforms everywhere. Don't stream it if you want, but pay for it. Please pay for it. It's, oh my God. So anyway, Cale, you're lucky. Anyway, Cale says, well, it's all leading to Rise of Skywalker. Skip has a good idea there. Cale, that's kind of, I mean, I think it all ties in. I think we know that, but yeah, AJ, I really do think that, yeah, they're going to croak. Otherwise, I mean, I'd be happy with them sticking around because I'd love to see, especially live action. I mean, come on. I mean, first of all, I'm going to say it right now, and I don't think anyone can deny it. Who would be a better live action record than The Rock? Okay.
Oh crap! I hadn't thought of that,
dude. You could have these live action characters.
Dude, I was watching all WrestleMania weekend, and I never thought of that. Holy shit!
Dude, wouldn't you though? I mean, you picture The Rock in your head, and you're like, "Holy shit!" Put some armor on him. That's fucking Wrecker. Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, I really think I could see that happening where this is the end. And you know, this season is so emotional, and you've already lost Tick, excuse me. There's a moment, no spoilers, but there's a moment in today's episode where I was like, holy shit, are they going to do that again? So they kind of tease things like that. I think they're all goners. I hope they're not.
Wow, that is dark, man.
But you know what, dude? Like, it makes sense from a writing standpoint, in a way. So like I say, I'm not predicting it. I'm just saying I would love them to stick around, but I could easily see them terminating all the characters.
Okay, so let's unpack that for a second. The reason Rogue One works is because the heroes die, but they lose the battle, so to speak, but they win the war. Like, the heroes die, but they accomplish the mission that allows the rebellion to succeed. So there's still that like ray of hope. Like, they get their mission accomplished, and then everybody else lives to fight on and eventually win.
Yeah.
They've got Omeega's blood already. So how do you off every character that we've been following for 3 seasons and yet have it still feel like the good guys came out on top?
That's a good point.
Where's the moral victory? We don't know what happens to Tantus. They might blow the whole place sky high.
Yeah. See, this is why I wish we would have landed on an even number, because I really wanted to do spoilers, because I have an explanation, but I don't want to like it. I think there's a way.
Well, we know the project isn't a complete success anyway, because it takes until episode 9, which is long in the future of the timeline, for Palpatine to come back. So, you know, by the time he dies, they haven't figured it out, apparently.
Yeah. Man, it's such a good question. Like, how do you have them, if they die, how do they come out on top? I mean, you know, Kale says, it's annoying how they had to go back and feed so much into it from Bad Batch and Mando to make Necromancer really work. But now the Rise of Skywalker is going to be kind of cool for a completionist going in order. And Kale, like, I've said many times on the show that I think that what they're doing is they're writing stuff to correct fan complaints from the sequel trilogy. And I can't say fan complaints, because that makes it sound like, oh, they're just listening to the fans. Like, it's not that. They don't give a shit. But I think they see, like, with how excellent the story writing has been on so many things beyond those 3 movies, you know, particularly Rise of Skywalker. I think that Favreau and Filoni are really trying to put things together to go, you know, people already love us, but we're going to be fucking legends if we put something together, especially over this long course of, you know, let's say years, that actually makes this stuff make sense, to where people go back and watch The Rise of Skywalker and be like, this movie kicks ass.
Well, it's like how the Clone Wars embellished and improved episode 2 and 3.
Yeah, that is a great example. That is a great example. Yes. Yeah, AJ, I mean, back to the original question. I don't know how they're, you know, if the Bad Batch has to go, how it actually turns out to be like a good thing, you know, for lack of a better, you know, I don't know. But
See, I'm just the opposite, because I think they have to live. That's just the storytelling format. Having your heroes all die is a really difficult thing to pull off and not leave the audience feeling like shit. But if the heroes all live, that introduces so many other potential problems that you need to solve in future stories to tell. Because these are legendary heroes at this point that would be fighting the good fight. And it's, like I said, it's the Ahsoka problem. Where the hell are they?
Yeah.
Why didn't they show up in Rebels at least? And the real answer is they didn't exist as characters yet when that show was written. But now you gotta figure that crap out. So I don't see how they all live. It feels like they have to live, but if they do, then you have to address their absence in other stories further down the timeline. But if you kill them all off, how do you make that feel like a satisfying resolution for the audience? I'm kind of on the edge of my seat to see how they wrap this all up.
I'm 100% on the edge of my seat to see how they wrap it up. I think, and I know I'm going to be way in the minority on this, but I am a fan, and maybe this makes me a sick bastard, but I am a big fan of swerve endings that are ungodly dark. And I'll use this example, and this is a spoiler for any of you guys.
You should be watching X-Men 97. Wow.
But isn't that animated?
Well, yeah, it's a continuation of the X-Men animated series from the 90s.
Yeah.
In 1996. So they call this 97 because it's the next season of that show.
Marvel and I are on the outs right now.
Well, like I said, today I had to wait to watch Bad Batch because X-Men hit me so hard. I needed time. Wow. And it's only five episodes into the season, by the way.
I'm laughing at you and Chastity Crawley. They get
There we go.
They get
there we go. She nailed it.
They get stuck in carbonite. Boom. Explain. Chastity, damn it, where were you an hour and 10 minutes ago? We could have ended this episode inside of 10 minutes.
If the Lucasfilm Story Group hasn't hit you up already, Chastity, then they're missing out.
Right? Chastity Crawley, Dream Theater superfan, Star Wars superfan, and writer. Yeah, like I'm a fan of the swerve ending, but I'm also, again, this makes me a sick bastard, a fan of the dark ending. Like, and I'll give you an example, and then we'll get out. But one of my favorite Stephen King novels, it's actually a novella, is The Mist. And they made a movie of it. If you haven't seen it, it's absolutely kick-ass. And the movie is about 95% accurate, 90 to 95% accurate to the book. So it's not one of those where you're like, oh, you got to read the book to really get it. Like, no, the movie pretty much nails it. Well, the difference is, in The Mist, the ending is they escape, and it's kind of like a open-ended, okay, well, how are they they're just going to keep going and surviving, without giving away the story. So you're like, okay, it's kind of open-ended. Well, in the movie, they escape. The whole thing is set in a grocery store. It's basically like, it's kind of like a commentary on society, and basically The Mist covers this town. A bunch of these people get stuck in this grocery store because they don't want to go out, because in the mist is a bunch of horrific, giant, weird fucking alien creatures from another dimension. It's really, it's not
Sounds
as
like
dumb.
a normal trip to Aldi to me, but
right. Well, and that's why all the people die, because they ran outside to fucking give their quarters back for their carts. But I mean, guys, if you have not read the book or seen the movie, it's not nearly as dumb as it sounds. It's actually brilliant. It's a phenomenal read or phenomenal watch. Well, anyway, so they're stuck in the grocery store. So in the movie, it's the main character, his like 10-year-old son, and an elderly woman, and another character, and they manage to somehow get out of the mist. They get into their car in the parking lot, which is only like a 100-foot run away, but there's so much shit out there, like who knows what's out there. So they get in the car and they start driving, and they run out of gas after going so far. And what ends up happening is, like, they don't know when this is going to end. They don't know, what's going to happen to them. They just know that everything out there can kill them. So the main character has a gun, and he's got 3 bullets left, but there's 4 of them in the car. So and this is a big spoiler, so feel free here, but it's spoiler for the movie, so feel free to read the book, but whatever. In the book, again, it's an uplifting thing. The guy gets out with his kid, and they end up in a Howard Johnson, and they're sleeping, and they're like, oh, what's going to happen now? And they kind of hear a very scratchy radio broadcast, like, hey, come this way to get out of the mist, whatever. It's like, oh my God, there's hope. Well, in the movie, It shows their little Jeep Cherokee in the mist at a distance, and you hear 3 pops, and the main character just screaming, meaning he killed the elderly woman, killed the other character, and killed his own son. Then he jumps out of the truck, and he starts screaming so that it'll get the monster's attention, so they kill him. And he starts hearing this big rumbling and this crazy fucking rumbling. And what the rumbling is a military track vehicle driving through the mist with survivors, and behind the military track vehicle, the mist had started to separate and it was going away. So basically the guy killed his own son for no fucking reason. So that is one of those movies where people are like, I hate it. It fucking sucks.
So you want the Stephen King ending to Bad Batch?
Yes, I do. Yes. It like, I can't say I want it, but I would enjoy it because I like those dark endings. Every ending is happy. There's either a neutral ending or a happy ending. There's never the holy shit. So like,
yeah, you want an unhappy ending? That's called real life.
Well, fine. Then make it mirror it so that you watch this whole thing and go, what the fuck? It creates an emotional reaction. Monty Python again. Real quick, AJ, look at this, man. The Legionnaire podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys. So it's finally caught you guys live. We're about to record our episode on Bad Batch 2. Loving the season. Bad Batch is in the running for best show in Disney era, in my humble opinion. Man, you guys got in so late, but I actually said earlier in the shows, one of my first takes, that I think that this is not only one of the best, animated shows that Disney has done in terms of writing. I think it's up there with just good Star Wars. So, by the way, guys, Legionnaire podcast, put up all your contact information and where we can find you guys in the chat. We'll bring that up on the screen so we can pimp you guys out, man. Thank you very much for tuning in. That's awesome. So all this positivity after me saying, yeah, I want the Bad Batch to just fucking die at the end.
Everybody dead.
Yes.
It's fine. The Empire wins.
Yeah. But the reason I was, short story long, I was bringing that up, AJ, because Star Wars has never done that. Even with Rogue One, which is the closest example we have, there, as you phrased it, there was still something good that came out of it. All of our main characters died. We loved them. We got attached to them over the course of a 2.5 hour movie, but something good came out of it. In this one, what if nothing does? What if it's just literally maybe
you gotta have something. You got to have something. The sacrifice has to mean something. Look, we already know that the project gets set back, that it takes another 50 years to figure it out.
Yeah.
So whatever they're working on won't be completed.
Well, then maybe what it is maybe then what happens is they do something that's the reason why it takes 50 more years. Like it was supposed to happen in like 2 years, but the Bad Batch blows some shit up that it's like, okay, now it's going to take, it's going to take 50 years. I don't know, but I wouldn't be against it. I would not be against it if it was just, man, like this kind of was all for naught. And it was really just eventually a story to kind of, further along the cloning of the Emperor storyline.
It would continue the trend because Dave Filoni had so much fun in both Clone Wars and Rebels of dangling the carrot of like how close the good guys got to unraveling Palpatine's plans so many times. Like season 7 of the Clone Wars, man, Fives had it all put together and he was running off to tell people and Palpatine had to act fast to make sure he got offed before he could do anything about it. Because his whole plan was almost laid bare before Order 66 even happened. And then there's, a number of times in season 7 also where, Darth Maul told Ahsoka what was going on and that had to go sideways for things to happen.
Yeah.
And, so on and so on and so on. Like so many times the Emperor was exposed, but he was able to snuff it out before anybody else found out. And I feel like that might be the case here, but almost in reverse. Like, the Emperor's almost got what he wants in his hands, Omeega with her M count, And yet it still takes Grogu in The Mandalorian and then some time after that before he can actually resurrect himself.
Yeah. I mean, maybe this whole thing turns out to be the origin of, the Grogu thing. Maybe this is the start of it. And maybe that's our predict, or not our prediction. I would say mine. Maybe that's where this whole thing ends up, where the Bad Batch blows up the whole thing with the kids and everything like that. And Grogu, the reason he's so fucking important in Mando is because he's the resurrection of that project.
Okay, I'm going full on tinfoil hat for my theory to wrap this up.
Okay.
I'm just, neurons are firing, man. It's getting crazy up here. Okay, how about this? Dr. Pershing from Mandalorian, right? What if he is the offspring of that adult female clone scientist? So he continues the work that his mom started, and that's how it all ties together. Because he said in his whole thing to the New Republic senator, whatever, that his mom wasn't allowed to follow her life's work. So maybe this was her life's work, was working at Tantus. They look similar enough, and if you want to say clones and copies of clones and children of clones, that's why he doesn't look quite like Jango Fett, but close enough. He's a dude with roughly the same color skin and same color hair.
Right.
All right.
I got to say, I'm with Kale. Kale says, dude, I like that. Dude, I'm with Kale. I agree with that. I think that's a damn good prediction, man. That actually works. And you also explained it in 20 minutes shorter than I would have. So so there you go.
We're already running almost to 90 minutes here, so
yeah.
I figured
right.
We need to shut up eventually.
All right, so before we close, I'm going to bring up my master's question. So first of all, thank all of you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you guys checking out another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. This has nothing to do with Star Wars. It is
watching the viewer count drop.
Yeah, it's a sports betting question, but it's not who do I bet on, like this, that, and the other. So I'm a huge fan of the Masters. So, as I said earlier in the show, I'm struggling a little bit. Like, my thing growing up with my dad was golf. My dad taught me to play golf when I was 7. I'm 48. So it's been 41 years I've been playing golf, and literally I've watched the final round of the Masters with my dad pretty much every one of those years, except for the last couple when he really couldn't see very well. But we did talk on the phone about the Masters. So this tournament this year especially is just very emotional for me. It's also the one time a year I take literally 4 days off of everything. Like, I literally shut the door of my man cave for about, literally 96 hours, and absolutely just, I relax, I drink beer, I, frickin' eat snacks that I don't normally eat. I'm not a snack guy, and I watch golf literally 12 hours a day for 4 straight days. So I'm not a sports betting guy, but last year when they were doing all that sports betting thing, I bet $5 on each golfer. I picked 5 guys, and one of the guys I picked won, and I won $95. So I was like, yeah, I'll bet again this year. So I bet, I found one of those sites where you get $150 in free bets if you bet 5. So I have $150 in free bets. So I have 2 different philosophies here. Doesn't matter the golfer. I'm wondering if I should bet for them to win, or if I should bet for them to place in top 5. You win more money if they win, but it's more likely if they get to top 5. And if I bet in the top 5, then I can have multiple winners, but if I bet each of them to win, I can only have one guy win. So what do you think is smarter? Kale.
I think this is what's smartest for me.
Look at AJ dumps himself out. Kale, yay! Master has presented Dobby with clothes. By the way, Kale, AJ and we're trying to think of show topics today, and AJ completely forgets that I'm so hooked on Harry Potter. It's crazy. So we definitely need some Harry Potter stuff. So, AJ, What do you think?
Oh, go big or go home. I mean, I just came back from Vegas, so
Okay, right. All right, Kale
I won
says
$5. I lost 50 to do it, but I won 5.
Well, I'll give you some examples because I wrote down some numbers because I'm gonna place my bets later tonight. But for example, if I bet, let's say $20 on John Rahm to win, who was last year's champion. If I bet $20 in right now, it's $320. If I bet $10 on him for a top 5, it's $47.50. So, okay. But if I were to take that $20 and bet it on 3 other guys, I could win a potential $365 if they all place in the top 5, but they're all long shots. So, you know, and I literally have my list of golfers who I want to bet on, and I've got it reversed. I've got one list where it's bet on them to win or bet on them to win in the top 5. Or not win in excuse me, bet on them to win or bet on them to be in the top 5. And I want to go hard to go home. And I am doing that with Scotty Scheffler, who's the world number 1, and he kicks ass, and he's probably going to win the Masters. But that notwithstanding, I'm wondering, do I go hard to go home? Or do I kind of hedge my bets to kind of like win multiple times but make less money if one of the favorites wins?
See, I'm the guy at roulette that will bet like red or black and then also throw something on a number just to see if, it hits.
Well, that's why I'm doing the top 5 thing as opposed to...
It's something like pick your top 5 golfers and bet them all to place in the top 5.
Okay.
Some might hit, some might not. Who knows? The longer odds, the better.
I will tell you this. So there's a couple former champions, and we'll get out of here because no one gives a fuck about this, but these are some interesting numbers. So 2 former champions, Adam Scott, the only Australian champion ever. I'm sure Kale knows that. If I put $10 on Adam Scott, right? $10 for Adam Scott to win, you know what my payout would be?
No.
$1,210.
Is that Australian dollars, though? Because that doesn't really count. That's not real money.
You win. Well, thanks for showing up to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. But here's another awesome one. If I bet $10,
Kale's from Australia, and at our $3 US dollar tier of Patreon, that's like half a year's salary. So,
dude, don't be busting on poor Kale. He already got banned from the chat for a minute.
I'm just busting on currency conversion rates.
Kale's right. He says, wouldn't you rather have the small win rather than I picked the wrong guy and lost $20? Well, Kale, I've got $150.
$20 is the small loss, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and I bet 5 so that I got $150 in free money. So basically, I'm out $5. And that's a whole nother story, which is hilarious from last night. But anyway, so here's one. Everyone knows this name, Phil Mickelson, 3-time Masters champion.
Lefty. Yeah,
finished second last year, just last year, and he is 52 years old. So if I bet $10 on him to win it all, how much do you think I would win? And now I just told you Adam Scott for $10 was $1,210. For Phil Mickelson to get the win, betting the same $10, what do you think it would be?
It's got to be 500 or less, right? I mean, he's way more solid to win this thing.
$3,010. If I put $10 down on Lefty,
fire on him, man.
I believe me, that's in there. So, but here's another cool thing. So for Adam Scott to finish in the top 5, if I put $5 down, I would win $125. And Phil Mickelson, if I put $5 down on him to finish in the top 5, which he's done a number of times, $267.50. And that leaves me $145 extra of free money to bet. So guess what I'm doing, at least on those two. Or 140, right. I should say. So
let it ride, baby.
Yep. So my thinking is I think just bet on a bunch of dudes to win in the top, to go in the top 5. And just do that, and then put a few bucks on someone to win, all those guys to win outright. Because at least if I could make up my $5 hey, what the fuck, right?
Yeah, works for me.
Yeah. So, just interesting math the way it works out. So,
I'm going to do a quick plug for our Patreon.
yes.
Patreon.com/NHC podcast. We have 2 tiers, both of which will get you early audio access to these episodes. You get this on Friday instead of Sunday. And special bonus for this week only, I will cut out all of that golf betting talk at the end of the episode for paying Patreon members only. Otherwise, you got to sit through all that shit. All right, where else can we be found, JT?
So, look, man, I said at the beginning I was only going to take a few minutes at the end, and I didn't do it at the beginning. I didn't do it in the middle, so give me some credit. So, we can be found in any number of places, but as always, guys, we are going to be right back here 2 weeks from now. The date will be Wednesday, April 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it is going to be our May 4th episode, and it's going to be random Star Wars bullshit. We have episode 1 coming back out in theaters. We've got a 1-day Star Wars marathon. We've got Star Wars Lego sets, which AJ is the master of Lego. If you don't know that AJ is the master of Star Wars Lego, please go to our channel and look up all the WTF Fridays. Look at his background right now, that beautiful background, which is his office. And AJ builds Lego live here on the show on WTF Fridays, so there's another plug for WTF Fridays. But we're going to be talking Star Wars, man. There's going to be a shitload of stuff to talk about on our show before, about a week and a half before May 4th. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So it will be Wednesday, April 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Guys, we are always at our main locations every 2 weeks. It is Facebook. It is YouTube. Not just us, but also the Virtual Cantina Network. And we have to thank them for putting up with us tonight, because I really cursed a lot, and I tried not to do that, but I did tonight. So I apologize for that. But the Facebook... good Lord. AJ, what is with me tonight? God damn it.
I got you, man. Let me take this over.
Solo, right. And then I'll do the final outro, but just solo yourself. Han Solo yourself. I'm cashed out.
Well, the problem is I'm not the one on camera right now, let's fix that.
Let's do it. No, do it.
Oh, this is great. Okay, so this is great for our audio viewers, of course. So first off, the next episode, here's some topics so you can get prepared for this. We're going to be talking Skeleton Crew. Where the hell is it? We're going to be talking about the story trailer for Star Wars Outlaws, the video game. We're going to be talking about the 1-day release of The Phantom Menace back in theaters. We're going to be talking about the 1-day movie marathon of the entire Skywalker saga from May the 4th. We're going to be talking about Tales of the Empire, whether my brother likes it or not. We have all these random loose ends of Star Wars that we have yet to discuss, and we're going to talk all about it the week before May the 4th. So make sure you tune in for that. That is 8 p.m., 2 weeks from tonight, Wednesday, April 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Not Eastern Standard Time. We're in Daylight Savings now. Now, you can find us on all our socials. We are available at NHC Podcast on Twitter. We are also... I locked all the things. We're on Threads, NHC Podcast. We're on Blue Sky at NHC Podcast. We are on YouTube. Just look for the Nerf Herder Council. We are on Facebook. Just look for the Nerf Herder Council. You can find all of our swag at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com, where you can customize your garments, your designs, your colors, all those sorts of things. And you know what? Because I'm feeling nice, if there's something up there that you like but isn't quite right, hit me up. Send us an email at nerfherdercouncil@gmail.com with show ideas or merch design ideas. Be happy to hook you up. No problem. You can always find us on Patreon. That's where all of our news updates go first. That is patreon.com/NHC podcast. And we have 2 paying tiers for that, but you don't have to pay us $1 whatsoever just to get those news updates. Subscribe to us on Patreon for free. You'll have all the latest updates on there. Now, if you pay for it, $1 a month will get you early audio access. That means you're going to get the audio version of this episode on Friday instead of Sunday. And if you pay us $3 a month, then you will get early audio access and a shout out on the show, like our buddies Mark Thrasher and Joseph Wren, who is appearing in the chat tonight. So thank you so much for tuning into the show. And we will hook you up. We've also got commentaries coming up. We've got all kinds of other ideas. We're going to be doing WTF Fridays for our Patreon subscribers. All kinds of stuff. So patreon.com/NHC podcast is the best place to stay up to date on all of our stuff. And we have our main website as well, which frankly is less updated than the Patreon, because if you're going to pay for it, we're going to give you more stuff. So go to the Patreon. But if you want to just go straight to the website, it's www.nerfherdercouncil.com, or just go to www.nhcpodcast.com if your fingertips are a little bit lazy and tired. Now, JT, do you have anything else to add before we sign off tonight?
I do. I believe we have the VCN show schedule coming up, AJ. Why don't you tell the fine people what's coming up on the Virtual Cantina Network?
I can do that, but first I have to upload it to StreamYard. So give me just, 3 whole seconds, and we will be talking about that here.
I just went through that whole monologue,
right.
And you couldn't do that?
Yeah, it's incredible. So, we are currently midweek here, so thank you for tuning in to our Bad Batch Season 3 mid-season review. Now, tomorrow night, if you haven't heard enough about the Bad Batch, specifically the episode that aired this week, the VCN Watch-Along is happening on Thursday. That is 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 Pacific. They're going to be
now it's Eastern.
Watching. Yeah. Yep.
Never mind.
So they're going to be watching all along with episode 12, today's episode of the Bad Batch. Then be sure you hit up the Virtual Cantina Network again on Friday, because at 3 a.m. Eastern or midnight Pacific, the Bad Batch After Show takes place, and that is going to be discussing episode 12, of course, in retrospect. So you can watch along live to the episode tomorrow night on Thursday on the Virtual Cantina Network, and then come back on Friday to discuss it after you've had some time to process what you've seen. And then Sunday on the 14th at 11 a.m. Eastern or 8 a.m. Pacific, the Unifying Force, and it's going to be covering Tales of the Empire, the trailer review, and look ahead. So if you can't wait for our ideas and synopsis of the Tales of the Empire trailer that dropped this week, then tune in Sunday to the Virtual Cantina Network. The Unifying Force has got you covered.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. AJ, I apologize for cutting you off in your monologue. I thought you were about to say Eastern Standard Time because you specifically called out Eastern Daylight Time earlier, and I was like, damn it. Look. So, sorry about that. I do owe you
Just say
one.
Eastern. Don't worry about the daylight savings part. It's
I'm used to doing it, man. That's how I'm used to doing it. So, to all you guys in the chat, man, as always, Kale McLeish, Horsehead, Jeff Caffrey, Chastity Crawley, great to see you. Thank you for tuning into my other show. Much appreciated. All you guys, Skip Ruckle, man, Discuss Metal Joe, great to see you, brother. Much love to you guys. You guys in the chat make the show go. We love having you guys here to help drive the conversation. Again, we are here every other Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As AJ said very eloquently, we will be here on Wednesday, April 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will be talking all things Star Wars for May 4th. Guys, it was a blast. Here's to hoping that, the Bad Batch Season 3 ends on a kick-ass high note. I think it will. I hope it will. I can almost guarantee that it will. This has been a great show, and I think it's going to be awesome going forward. So, what a great job.
Clone Wars Season 7 is anything to go by. Dave Filoni knows how to stick the landing.
Yep, perfect point. And you know what? Someone mentioned that in the chat earlier, so forgot to bring that one up. You are completely dead on. I did watch all of that season, and it is excellent. So, guys, thank you so very much. As usual, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you are tuned in on YouTube on our channel or the channel of the Virtual Cantina Network, don't forget to click that like button and that subscribe button and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. If you would like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, meaning the Chewbacca's family t-shirt. Come on, you guys, you want it. Go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And if you would like to get Virtual Cantina Network swag, just go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. Guys, we will see you in 2 weeks. It is, again, Wednesday, April 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am your host, JT, at Dog Pound Jedi. He is AJ.
At Drake Adams 579.
And we will catch you next time.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
bolts is never gonna get us past that blockade.
This bucket's got a few surprises left in her. Plus me and Chewie are on it. Ain't that right, Chewie?
Hell yeah, you my nerf herder.
You my nerf herder.